strong.
Chapter 201, Know Me, Finish My Pride. Start high-speed text sync readings on your phone. On the peak of Jingshan Mountain, countless eyes stared at Ye Fuxian, watching his arms being raised again. The nine-faced war drum has been hit together, and the sky is shaking. Now he can raise his hand and strike again. At this moment, Ye Fuxian's heart was as calm as water, and he was very calm. The power of the war drum swept over him, rushing into his body, strong will, and terror. With this drum, you can practice. It was here that for the rest of his life the prince would change, giving birth to the fortune of the moderate prince. Above Ye Fuxian's raised arm, there was actually a purple thunder, and a terrifying thunder light shone and coalesced into a fortune. There was a faint sound of a dragon howling in his arms, which was terrifying. Under everyone's gaze, Ye Fuxian's arm headed for the war drum. War drums, ringing. Explosion. The thunder exploded, and at this moment, the sound of the war drums would turn into one. Above the sky, Longyan exploded, and thunder and lightning danced into a terrifying storm that swept across the vast space. The void turned into a world of thunder, with dancing the thunder dragon. Under this terrible vision, the terrifying light of the thunder stormed Ye Fuxian's body, washing his body. He bathed in the thunder, like a thunder god. Drums, 10. Thunder rumbled and thunder dragon dance. On the steps of Jingshan Mountain, people who were walking stopped and looked up at the sky. A terrible thunder shone from above. Tang Ye's steps stopped again, and looking at the vision above, his expression was finally no longer calm, and he couldn't be bright and light. Who made the 10 drums? Not only Tang Ye, many people stopped at the stairs and made waves in their hearts. Even when Xiao Wuji was looking at the scene in the void, his eyes revealed a different color. This 10th sound is louder than the first 9. The thunder above the sky gradually dissipated, and the drums still resounded between heaven and earth. At the peak of Jingshan Mountain, at this moment, everyone's eyes became dignified, looked at the war drum, and stared at the figure in white clothes. However, he stood still, as if he would never fall. The drums will rest, and once the drums disappear, everything will return. At this time, Ye Fuxian's arm was raised again in the eyes of the people. For the 11th time, raise your hand. At this moment, the hearts of many people trembled. Ye Fuxian's arm is no longer the power of thunder, but a dazzling golden brilliance, faintly turning into a golden winged rock. The power of terror will merge into it, and then, knock on the war drum. Bang! The drums of the nine-faced battle rang, as if the waves were breaking on the shore. Golden light poured into the clouds, and the vision was remade above the sky, like a golden winged rock figure, floating in the void. The sound of this drum also hit everyone's hearts fiercely. The 11th ring. Princess Liu Guiyu, Shen Yu of the demonic sect, and Jiu Biu, the witch demon slayer, all eyes were on that proud figure. At this moment, he seems to be transformed into another person, like he played the piano before, like an emperor before, like an emperor. Not forever. At this time, he and the previous cynic, who is he? At this time, Liu Shenyu thought about Ye Wuxian's previous words, and developed a strange feeling. Is it possible? But he still couldn't believe it, but the real ringing drum was happening in front of him. Ling Yao's eyes stared at Ye Fuxian. Did this person finally start? Sure enough, those who ignored him would eventually know what kind of bastard this person was. In the direction of Fuyun Janzong, Li Daoyuan's eyes suddenly became extremely sharp. Ye Fuxian, what is he doing? He is studying Xiao Wuji, and wants to enter the top forces in the eastern wasteland. On the top of the stairs, Tang Ye looked at Xiao Wuji beside him, and the other side was also looking at him. Go and see, Tang Ye said. Okay. Xiao Wuji nodded, and the two turned and walked quickly. Not only them, but also many people going up and down the stairs to the top of the mountain again. When they reached the stairs and stood on the edge of the peak of Jingshan Mountain, they saw a figure in the distance. He was bathed in inexhaustible golden light, his body seemed to be torn apart by a terrible storm, and the entire human being was drowning. However, they still saw who he was. It was Ye Fuxian, the person who had a chance in Hua Qingqi, but didn't know how to appreciate it. He was also a madman in Tang Yeko, an idiot with no self-knowledge. Hua Qingqi and Tang Ye's eyes were a little strange. How could he? The people from the Qin dynasty and the Zuawang King Palace were dazzling, with a strange light flashing in their eyes. This person seems to be the one who heard it when he came to win the fortune of the strong man Fuyun Janzong. His talent seems to be stronger than expected. Could there be any unexpected gains during this trip? Just then, they saw Ye Fusion raised his hand again, and he was still playing drums. Even with such a terrifying attack of will, he still didn't give up. At this moment, Ye Fusion clearly felt the horror pouring out his will, and at the same time, he also realized how terrifying the patience of his determination was. Nine-faced war drum, the sound of the drum can be nine, however, after 9 tones, the true meaning of the war drum. But above Mirror Mountain, the remnants of the war drum, only a few people can sound the 9 sounds, and they are rare evil spirits. For the rest of my life, and everyone thinks, the 9 voices are perfect. Under such circumstances and misunderstandings, who would continue to call 10th? Who can call the 10th? Even if her will was as strong as hers, she clearly felt a terrible tearing feeling. The 10th voice was under incomparable pressure. The 11th voice was like his will to collapse. However, he still didn't give up and didn't want to give up. He felt great benefits and felt the baptism and transformation of the will. After the 9 sounds, each sound represents wealth. So he called 12. It was another thunder, the world shook, people's hearts trembled with war drums, as if infected by it. This time, flame will. Thunder, gold, fire. Everyone was shaking inside. Ye Fusion has revealed his multi-attribute talent, and every time he plays the drums, it is a bloom of his attributes. Previously, Xiao Wuji was full of attributes. Today, Ye Fusion, is he too. A mighty fire rushed into Ye Fusion's body and wanted to burn his will. At this time, Ye Fusion was protecting his will with imperial will, but still suffering incomparable pain. However, his body still stood firm. Not just for spiritual practice. Why did he set foot in the ancient world with awakening? Due to his low realm and weak strength, Luo Tianzi lied to him and the copy of the book made him despair. She went to Kangye country and was ranked number 1 on the Fenwa list. Then he heard Feng Feng's performance on the show. Luo Tianzi still wants to kill him with a strong force. Right at this moment, an ancient world opened up. So he came, he couldn't wait. He set foot in the ancient desert realm and traveled all the way. Finally, he arrived at the deserted city and reached the peak of Jingshan Mountain. He wanted to prove himself here, he wanted to vote here and join the top Zongman army in the eastern wasteland. Only in this way, Luo Tianzi is not in a position of arrogance in front of him, and Luo Jun is in front of him and can no longer be arrogant. At the peak of Jingshan Mountain, he had absolute confidence in himself, just waiting for the opportunity to mature. At this time, it was the perfect time for the troops to gather at the peak of Jingshan Mountain. However, Hua Qingqi told him that if he missed the opportunity, there would be no more. Tangye Academy said he was stupid and had no self-knowledge. On the other hand, Xiao Wuji, everyone's attention, all the top forces are waiting for him to choose the gate. Eastern Land, top army, choose with him. In that case, then, he would tell everyone who he was, and he would let the people of the top forces in the eastern wasteland see his style. No one can beat Xiao Wuji's record. Then he broke it. He knew that everyone was watching him at the peak of Jingshan Mountain at this time. At this moment, his white robes fluttered and his flying hair seemed to reflect his openness. The arm raised again. In the mouth, slowly emitted a sound. Know me, explain my pride. The sound fell, the drum sounded, the world shook, and the waves swept across the sky. Get to know me, finish my arrogance. The sound of the waves sweeping across the sky, vibrating in everyone's eardrums, with the sound of a drum, immortal, as if to be imprinted on their minds. However, this is still not over. Ye Fusion hit the drum arm and raised it again. Why don't you know me? Oh. The sky shook, and a terrible storm blew in the body, as if there was a very overbearing wind. At the top of the mountain, the men were hunting, but his heart was shaking. The voice was too shocking. Get to know me, finish my arrogance. If you don't know me, why don't you leave? How arrogant, how brave. This is it, Ye Fusion. Is it done? Still not, arms raised and knocked down, the drum shook, the world shivered wildly, but the two figures seemed immortal. Finally, with the sound of the 16th drum vibrating, an incomparable storm will rush towards Ye Fusion, and the 9-sided war drum vibrates together. Boom. There was a loud bang, and the first drum broke. Boom, boom, boom. Crackling sounds continuously came out. Under the shocking gaze of the people, the 9-sided war drum constantly cracked and shattered, and every time it cracked it was so thrilling. Finally, the 9-sided war drum exploded and shattered into dust. Only the peerless figure still stood there steadily, and the light enveloped his body. At this moment, Ye Fusion, the image of his back became a great beach. Chapter 202, Can you understand my world? Start high-speed text sync readings on your phone. The battle broke out, but the sound of the drums seemed to still echo between the heavens and the earth. At this moment, everyone's thoughts seemed to echo the arrogant voice in the face of Ye Fusion. Today, Xiao Wuji chose this gate at the peak of Mirror Mountain. For the first time he stepped on the ruins of Mirror Mountain, he showed his incomparable talent, freely comprehending the statues that communicated with each attribute, taking photos on the walls, the 9-year-old drum, and the king like a prince. Ye Fusion, playing drums after Xiao Wuji. In the eyes of many, Xiao Wuji and Zhu Yu were in front of him. Anyone who acted like that would look indecent. Everyone thought that in today's poor world, no one could have Xiao Wuji's style, and the glory he created was unbreakable for a long time. Is that true? Xiao Wuji hasn't left yet, Ye Fusion told everyone with action, who said that Xiao Wuji can't be surpassed. 16 war drums, the vision of nature, the poured war drums will, and then explode. The drum is broken, and the record ends here forever. This is the correct record. Xiao Wuji's record was an unbreakable record. Many eyes looked back, Ye Fusion seemed to still feel the will to pour into the body, and the white robe was automatically windless. Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes showed a strange look, book boy. He glanced at Ye Wuchen next to him, and looked at Ye Wuchen's calm face, as if he was not surprised at all, as if he should be. Maybe really believe it, Liu Shenyu thought. Ye Wuchen thought that Ye Fusion and all his talents were above the top evildoers in the eastern wasteland. But now, Ye Fusion seems to be proving what Ye Wuchen said before, at least for now, he really surpassed Xiao Wuji. Liu Shenyu's eyes slowly turned and he looked in the direction where Tang Ye Xiao Wuji was. At this moment, Tang Ye, a madman in the academy, showed a strange look in his eyes, as well as Walking Pool. Get to know me, finish my arrogance. If you don't know me, why don't you leave? Is this their response? Pretty sure, pretty crazy. After the 9 war drums, they can continue. If you know, you should be able to do the same. Tang Ye said, clearly speaking to Xiao Wuji next to him. Xiao Wuji looked towards the area of the war drum that had broken out. This was the first time he came to the top of Jingshan Mountain, the first time he played a war drum, and after 9 sounds, the 9-faced war drum sang together. He didn't expect to continue. If he knew, he would naturally be able to continue. How can he not do what others can do? Of course. Xiao Wuji nodded. This is confidence in one's own strength. Of course, the war drum has broken, which can no longer be confirmed. The surrounding people nodded silently when they heard Xiao Wuji. Ye Fusion really surprised them, but with Xiao Wuji's talent, he should be able to do it. Finally, Ye Fusion's body moved, and he slowly turned around and lifted his leg in another direction. When he saw it, many eyes bulged. The area he was aiming for was the place where the photo was taken, and Xiao Wuji had previously broken records. Is it possible? Many people have a strange feeling, this person wants to go through the Xiao Wuji ruins again. Is he serious? Ye Fusion, want to fight with Xiao Wuji. Ye Fusion did not intend to compete with Xiao Wuji, but his purpose in coming to Jingshan was to choose the ancestral gate. Xiao Wuji had set a precedent, so the simplest way for him to achieve his goal was to destroy Xiao Wuji's records. So, who can question? Of course, maybe this is the reason Ye Fusion found himself. The real reason was that he wasn't happy. He was very annoyed with Tang Ye, and equally annoyed with Hua Qingqi. Previously, he had not refuted the other party, and his speech was pale and weak. What could be shorter and more powerful than action? Didn't Dong Hazong and the academy fight for Xiao and look down on him? In that case, let's see clearly. In front of the image, a faint light shone in front of the stone monument, and the stone monument was like a mirror. At this moment, Ye Fusion's figure was standing in front of this huge stone monument. At the top of the mountain, everyone's eyes were on him, being the only focus. In fact, before he took the mage as a servant, many people came for him, but Xiao Wuji came here to choose the ancestral gate, and immediately took all the light. In everyone's eyes, it seems that only Xiao Wuji, and then can't tolerate other people. However, at this moment, Ye Fusion once again attracted a lot of attention. Can he break Xiao Wuji's record by taking a photo on the wall? The faint light blooming on the skull enveloped Ye Fusion's body. At this moment, Ye Fusion only felt that his will was swallowed into the skull. For a moment, Ye Fusion felt countless wills, which were the wills of different powerful people. He lifted his steps and stepped forward. In an instant, countless wills rushed towards him frantically, and for a moment he was under tremendous suppression. Take a picture on the wall. Outside, everyone saw Ye Fusion's illusory figure appearing on the skull, and imprinted on the skull. Ye Fusion continued to move forward. Soon, the numbers fell to 2 inches and 3 inches. At this moment, Ye Fusion seemed to understand something vague. Every time he moved forward, the willpower became stronger, not only the willpower of the stull itself, but also the will left behind by his predecessors on the stull. This stone monument is very beautiful. If you want to take an inch of a photo on a wall, you have to face the oppression of the person who has taken an inch on the stone monument. The more you advance, the stronger the suppression. The wills left by those who took photos on the walls were suppressed. Therefore, some people claim that the deeper the picture is taken, the worse the talent will be, and record breaking is equivalent to surpassing the willpower of all its predecessors. It didn't take long for Ye Fusion to snap a 7-inch photo on the wall. Many people trembled and became nervous. Gubu's beautiful witch eyes stared at Ye Fusion for a moment, and she took a 7-inch picture on the wall, which was a record before Xiao Wuji's arrival. Now, Ye Fusion has made this move. His talent is so terrible. It seems that the Dao Xinjiang magic has been defeated in his hands before. This person's desires are truly terrifying. 7 inches, just one more step, we can match Xiao Wuji's record. People stared at Ye Fusion, and at this moment, Ye Fusion's steps once again took off, and the blooming of the stone monument was terrifying. The light, as if there is an endless will, is madly suppressing Ye Fusion's will. But his body remained motionless, slowly, his figure remained against the wall. Record pings. Xiao Wuji did it, and he did it again. Tang Ye had previously said that Xiao Wuji was invincible in the ancient world. Is it really that incomparable? So was Ye Fusion humiliated by him. Besides, Ye Fusion still doesn't seem to be leaving. His footsteps picked up again, and he stepped out, like carving his body into stone tablets. Above the stull, Ye Fusion's shadow was 9 inches long. Xiao Wuji's previous record was broken by Ye Fusion before an hour. They were silent, but they didn't know what to say. Although Xiao Wuji himself, there is a wave in his eyes, although he did not do his best to take a photo on the wall, Ye Fusion broke his record is still very terrible, he is qualified to compare with him. In addition to him, there is such a figure in the ancient world, and he doesn't seem to belong to the supreme power. Who's he? Xiao Wuji asked Tang Ye next to him. He really cared about other people, and Ye Fusion clearly attracted him. You are Fusion, Tang Ye replied. After 9 inches of photos were taken on the wall, Ye Fusion did not continue, it was enough to break the record. This stone inscription did not bring him great benefits. So that's it. Ye Fusion lifted his steps, left the stone monument area, and returned to the statue area where he had previously practiced. At this point, the smell of sharpness came, and the people from the Fuyun sect came to this side, and Li Doin was among them. Ye Fusion can no longer continue. He has broken 2 records, and the top squads have been attracted to him. However, Ye Fusion can join any force, but it is impossible to become the Union sect. Li Doin arms Ye Wuchen. How can this hatred be overcome? Seeing Li Doin approaching, Ye Wuchen and Liu Langxiu came to Ye Fusion, blocking Fuyun Janzong's path. Liu Shenyu and Liu Feiyang also stepped out, stopping the people from the floating sword sect. When the people in power saw that Fuyun Janzong wanted to shoot Ye Fusion, he couldn't help but step forward and approach the statue area. Tang Ye and Xiao Wuji also approached here. When he saw Ye Fusion standing in front of the fire statue, Tang Ye said, Xiao Wuji in this area has reached his limit. What is the use of your communication? If you really want to compare with him, go to the Jingshan stone wall to prove your talent. Obviously, Tang Ye is also interested in Ye Fusion at this time, no longer disdain like before. Ye Fusion looked at Tang Ye with a strange look, and said, earlier, you said that you didn't like the way I did things. However, whether you like it or not is up to you. But now, I really hate you. So my problem, please shut up. Everyone's eyes were fixed. Ye Fusion, this was responding to Tang Ye's arrogant words earlier. Tang Ye focused his eyes, looked at Ye Fusion, and then sneered, even if your talent is really extraordinary, a place like the academy is still the most suitable place for spiritual practice, and you use your spirit to destroy your path. What's the use? You offended Fuyun Janzong with the second order world, and you took over Jiu Zong as a servant. Have you ever thought about the consequences? Isn't this stupid? Even at this moment, Tang Ye still didn't think there was anything wrong with his previous words. Ye Fusion's failure to enter the academy is also his own loss, and how much does it have to do with Tang Ye? Stupid. Ye Fusion ignored Tang Ye, he saw a huge statue of a flame, and then, on top of the statue, a strong flame shone towards him, and immediately wrapped his body. Then, Ye Fusion, like Xiao Wuji before, merged into the body of the flame statue, as if wanting to feel inside the statue. Ye Fusion seemed to prove that Xiao Wuji could do it, and he could. That's all. At this moment, the fire statue seems to be rough, the heavens and the earth aura around it are pouring into the statue frantically. Ye Fusion's body seems to be completely integrated into the statue, as if it became a part of it. The terrifying flames flowed, and the next moment, a pair of huge eyes opened suddenly, and the light of fire shot out from the huge pupils, that is, the eyes of the statue. At this moment, the eyes of the statue seemed to have the color of life, slowly turning around, looking at Xiao Wuji. The next moment, with the shocked gazes of the people, the huge statue was deeply moved. This huge fire statue turned around and moved its steps towards Tang Ye. Then, an arrogant voice came out from the statue. Can you understand my world? Chapter 203, Incinerator Start High-Speed Text Sync Readings on Your Phone. That arrogant and shocking voice came out of the statue's mouth, and it was clearly Ye Fusion's voice. At this moment, Tang Ye's complexion instantly became extremely embarrassing. He said just now that Xiao Wuji had reached the limit, and Ye Fusion continued to understand the statue, which was meaningless. However, is this really the limit? So what was Ye Fusion doing? Xiao Wuji could understand the statue, but Ye Fusion directly controlled the statue. He twice called Ye Fusion stupid. Why? Because Ye Fusion's second-order cultivation is a realm, he has done things beyond his ability. Fuyun Janzong can't face it, Dezongzong can't stand it, the two armies can kill him in the ancient world. So he thought, of course it was stupid. No one can deny his words, even if Ye Fusion shows absolute talent, he still doesn't think there is anything wrong with his words, stupidity is stupidity. But at this point, when Ye Fusion controlled the statue, who dared to say that Fuyun Janzong and Dao Mozong would kill him? Ye Fusion said, can you understand my world, like a hard slap in the face. Is Ye Fusion stupid, or is he stupid? Liu Shenyu and Jiu Biu's beautiful eyes also showed shock, and their hearts trembled. Previously, Xiao Wuji noticed the three statues and practiced the statues shortly after they arrived. They naturally thought that Xiao Wuji was superior to Ye Fusion. Just because Ye Fusion stayed in the statue area for a long time, it was not as good as Xiao Wuji. It was then that they understood why Ye Fusion had always been in the area of the statue and was always enlightened on the statue. He had been secretly trying to control the statue, and before he knew it, he had done something that had never been done before, but ridiculously they still doubted Ye Fusion's talent. Turns out he was already in the chest. 16 drums sounded and then exploded. Take a 9-inch photo and break the record. Sculpture, direct control. Ye Fusion, in the three major relic areas, completely crushed Xiao Wuji. Not long ago, people were still shocked by Xiao Wuji's talent and thought it couldn't be surpassed, but in a short time, someone came out and bloomed with even more dazzling brilliance. The war drum is broken and the record is eternal. The statue is directly controlled, who can surpass it? This is a true record, one that cannot be broken. Countless eyes stared at the huge body of flames, and ignited a huge wave within. In fact, is there anyone really better than Xiao Wuji? Moreover, he had been at the peak of Mirror Mountain, ignored by people, and even humiliated by Tang Ye. Right now it's ironic. I saw the fire statue still facing Tang Ye, and once again uttered a voice, don't judge me with your eyes, you are not qualified. Tang Ye's face became more and more ugly, and he couldn't refute it. The arrogant words he said were indeed measured by his own thoughts and visions. There was nothing wrong with that, but the person in front of him was a freak. Also, you broke my path with just one word. Are you sure you are qualified to represent the college? Ye Fusion spoke again, Tang Ye's face paled again, this sentence hit his heart. When Ye Fusion's talent surpassed him, and maybe even above Xiao Wuji's, could Tang Ye's attitude really represent the academy's attitude? Obviously not. If Ye Fusion's performance on the Jingshan stone wall was as dazzling as in the three major relic areas, if he broke Xiao Wuji's record there again, the top forces in the eastern wasteland would obviously be competing for it. Hi Ye Fusion, how are you? He Tang Ye, college. He is not qualified to choose Ye Fusion. At that time, Ye Fusion will be like Xiao Wuji, choosing a sect. Currently not only Tang Ye, but also Li Doin is ugly. How arrogant he was in the ancient ruins of Lulan that day. At that time he could not live forever, and never looked at Ye Fusion at all. However, at this moment, he really knew Ye Fusion here. He really didn't expect that Ye Fusion's talent could be so strong. Not only him, but the 4 strong people who went to the Lulan ancient ruins that day didn't think about it, but the other 3 powers just wanted to compete for the treasures that Ye Fusion obtained. The hostility was not deep and can be overcome, but Li Doin cut off Ye Wuchen's arm. With the talent revealed by Ye Fusion, once Ye Fusion joins the top forces, he will have one more deadly enemy in the future and want his deadly enemy. What's more, because of Ye Fusion, Liu Shenyu is now standing right on the opposite side. In the past, he chased Liu Shenyu, although the other party did not promise him, but at least there was hope. At this time, when he wanted to deal with Ye Fusion, Liu Shenyu came to the opposite side, and his cold demeanor made him like an enemy. Seeing the beautiful face in front of him, he sighed in his heart and looked at Ye Fusion. The killing in his eyes became even stronger. Let him come, Ye Fusion said. Liu Shenyu and Lu Langxiu glanced at the statue, then gave up. Li Daoyuan's eyes went straight to the statue that Ye Fusion had, and then he stepped forward. One step across space and down in front of Ye Fusion. You said you were waiting for me. It turned out to be your confidence. Li Doin looked at Ye Fusion and said. Ye Fusion didn't say anything. On top of the statue, the meaning of fire is very loud. In the ancient world of silence, the state of law is the limit. Even if you can control the statue, the real state is still only the level of the law and only the will is not limited. However, I am also the will of the prince. Li Doin said slowly. I used to be in Lulan ancient ruins, was a true ancient prince. Now, I want to see how strong you are by borrowing a statue. Enough, Ye Fusion said faintly. What Li Doin said was naturally clear. There is a limit to the ancient desert, although the statue is strong, but it is strong in the will of fire. His sculptural body devoured the heavens and the earth. The flame aura still couldn't pass the far phase. But isn't it enough for him to cultivate at the peak state of the far phase? Li Doin stood with a sword. On his body, a violent storm of sword air appeared. Holding in his hand was the sword of the prince's weapon, which was obtained from the ancient ruins of Lulan. The sword started dancing. For a time, the situation changed, and an incomparable sword meaning broke out in his body. Between heaven and earth, endless auras came together and turned into sword energy. Li Doin is very serious, although the character is crazy, but seeing Ye Fusion's and Lu's talent, naturally he does not dare to be arrogant and go out. If it could be chopped, Ye Fusion would be chopped right then and there to prevent future trouble. Today Ye Fusion has not joined any of the top forces. Even if he kills, no one can say anything. I saw remnants of shadows appear. In the midst of the sword storm, many figures of Li Doin appeared, just like his Falun Gong abilities. Countless figures, at the same time dancing the sword. The power of the sword is getting stronger and stronger, turning into a terrible storm that destroys everything, that the world is like a sword alone. The statue that Ye Fusion was attached to, the terrifying firepower exploded, the fist clenched, the body burned wildly, like a melting pot, and it could destroy everything in the world. Li Daoyuan's body finally moved, and many afterimages moved at the same time. At this moment, there seemed to be a river of swords in the heavens and the earth. This sword river flows towards Ye Fusion. Li Doin guided Jianhe forward, his body fluttering lightly, as if floating in the clouds. But what was left was the sword of death. Boom! In the void, a peerless flame erupted, and then there seemed to be a gust of wind between heaven and earth, and a maple leaf flame appeared, endlessly. These fire maple leaves fluttered in the wind and rolled towards Li Doin, accompanied by a crackling sound. The terrifying fire maple leaf had a golden glow, like an indestructible fire, and burned directly into the remnants of Li Daoyuan's image. Burned into nothingness. The heaven and earth in front suddenly ignited a golden fire, and the world of fire made of maple leaves wrapped the river of swords in it, and they wanted to destroy everything. The spell on the statue. Xiao Wuji blinked, looking at the flaming maple leaf. Many remnants were burned, but there was still a figure that cut everything, broke the void, and the maple leaf was annihilated under the sword. This image is the true god Li Doin. He cut into the body of the statue attached to Ye Fusion. Jian Zhu's melee abilities were truly terrifying. But at this moment, Ye Fusion's palm was closed, and the palm of the huge statue was almost as extreme as if they expected the direction of the opponent's sword. When his palm fell, he instantly closed the opponent's sword. You seek death, Li Doin said coldly. The sword is a magic weapon. Ye Fusion took the sword with the statue. The sword exploded furiously, tearing everything apart, and the melancholy palm was also broken. His sword, like the sharpest weapon in the world, pierced the statue. The palm print was slightly damaged, but almost at the same time, the extremely terrifying fire instantly stuck to Li Daoyuan's arm, and then rose upwards, trying to penetrate Li Daoyuan's body. Damaged. Li Doin sighed furiously. The sword gashed off the arm of the statue, and then continued to cut off the head of the statue, but almost at the same time, his body suddenly ignited a terrifying trail of fire, as if the divine flame light came with intense pain. Great. His body seemed to be on fire. His trembling hands trembled continuously, and those arms shone with a golden divine flame. Li Daoyun's face was pale. Instead of continuing to attack, he immediately chose to flee to the back, very firmly. If you can kill in this battle, you can't kill, you will naturally retreat, no need to fight hard. Take the arm first. Ye Fusion said coldly. The eyes of the statue were like his eyes, a terrifying flame would bloom from those fire demon eyes, and then, Li Daoyun's arms were like it was lit, and an ancient fire character appeared on the arms. Ah! An extremely painful scream came out, and the sword in Li Daoyun's hand fell unsteadily. His eyes stared at his right arm holding the sword, it was burning and could not be extinguished. Chapter 204, Arrive. Start high-speed text sync readings on your phone. The arm turned into nothingness under the flames, and Li Daoyun's scream continued. If it was cut directly by the sword, it would only be a moment of pain. Can be imagined. The flames were extinguished, Li Daoyun's sword was extremely dazzling, and the pupils lit up rapidly. Fuyun Janzong's people stepped forward and came to him, the sword swept over, and oppressed Ye Fusion. Around him, the strong people watching also felt shocked, and their hearts trembled. No wonder Ye Fusion is unscrupulous. After integrating into the statue, he already had the highest level of power in the rule of law. Although Li Daoyun is not the strongest descendant of Fuyun Janzong, Tianzhou, he is still very famous. It is only human, the strength is unquestionable, but one hand is burned by the strong. The eyes of the statue are like Ye Fusion's eyes, glanced at Li Daoyun, and said coldly, "You are so weak, why dare to be crazy?" Li Daoyun looked up, and Jian Yi shot out of his eyes. He looked at the figure in front of him. How domineering he had been in the Lulan ancient ruins that day, he obviously wouldn't have thought about the current situation. The disciples of Fuyun Janzong pressed forward, and the sword meant Lingshan. Ye Fusion glanced at everyone, and said coldly, "Li Daoyun interrupted my brother's arm in the ancient world, and now returns it. If you want to kill me, even if you can't kill him, don't blame me. Thank you." The words fell, and the terrifying fire aura fused wildly in the arms, and the hand of the statue that was cut by the sword aura was reborn, purely transformed by the fire aura. Feeling the meaning of the terrifying flame, Fuyun Janzong's face was embarrassed. Among the upcoming crowd of Fuyun Janzong, Li Daoyun is the strongest. He was easily burned by the hand, and the other was not Ye Fusion. Opponent. Go. Li Daoyun said coldly, took the sword with his left hand, then turned and walked away. The people of Fuyun Janzong looked deeply at Ye Fusion, and then left with Li Daoyun. Li Daoqing's face behind was very ugly. He did not expect that the minions in his mouth made them lose their faces and burned his brother's arm. If Ye Fusion chooses to join the top forces, this revenge is not easy to report. Seeing Fuyun Janzong's people leave, Ye Fusion walked back to where the statue was before. Then, his body came out of it, handsome appearance, extraordinary temperament. At this time, everyone's eyes saw some subtle changes. Ye Fusion was only a very talented man, but he was an arrogant little genius who did not know the heights of the earth. But now, Ye Fusion was a top-tier demon that Xiao Wuji could compare to. In a few years, he will advance to higher level method levels as he advances, and he will be able to compete with the top-tier peers of the top forces. Down. Nobody spoke. Ye Fusion, the three major relics that Xiao Shaoji passed, had already left, and they were all gone. Today, only the Jingshan stone wall remains. Everyone waited quietly, and wanted to see Ye Fusion's presence on the Jingshan stone wall, which could make several prince statues appear. At that time, the big names in the upper armies would also be able to witness his style. However, after waiting for a while, they discovered that Ye Fusion was actually sitting in front of another statue and starting to practice. It seemed that he had no idea of going to the Jingshan stone wall. Many people showed strange looks, and everyone at the top of Mirror Mountain was watching him, waiting for him to show his grace. That person is practicing. The witch Jiu Biu's eyes flashed, and she stared at Ye Fusion with a stun. The rest of his life had a black face. This man is here again. He's a bit shameless. People waited for a while, but Ye Fusion continued his practice as if he didn't know. Many people are not calm. This man broke Xiao Shao's record. By half, the last important part of the Jingshan stone wall was abandoned. He suddenly stopped practicing. What does that mean? What happened? Liu Feiyang, the son of King Liu, asked his sister Liu Shenyu. Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes flashed and she said, "I don't know." Speaking, he also glanced at Ye Dust, revealing his question. Do not look at me. Ye Wuchen stepped out and said, it's just a habit. Liu Feiyang's brothers and sisters were a little embarrassed. Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes looked at Ye Fusion and the rest of his life. At this moment, he thought, were Ye Wuchen's words true? Sink fish, whispered Liu Feiyang, what's your relationship? Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes flashed a strange look, and said, actually, I only knew them recently, but I have a good impression. Thinking about the talent that Ye Fusion had shown earlier, he said again, but what do you think is a bit difficult, but at least, you can become friends. He naturally understood what Liu Feiyang meant, and wanted to attract Liu Guo. Just based on Ye Fusion's previously revealed talent, that even in the Jingxin stone wall, he can't surpass Xiao Wuji, but as long as he can make 3 royal figures appear, it is enough to be evil, and the possibility of 4 royal figures appearing is very high. In this case, the troops in the eastern wasteland could be left to choose. Although Dong Hazong's Walking Pool and Tang Ye's college hated him before, as Ye Fusion said to Tang Ye before, if he was extraordinary enough, how could Hua King Pool and Tang Ye represent the 2 major powers? Didn't he say that one of them could have a pony? Next, Liu Shenyu's maid mumbled, Liu Feiyang's eyes were stunned, and he looked at his sister. Liu Shenyu's eyes stared at the maid, and the maid shyly backed away. Don't think too much. Liu Shenyu glanced at his brother, what did he see? I think it can be considered. Liu Feiyang smiled, which one do you like? Liu Shenyu's face was red, and Liu Feiyang stared fiercely. Jingxin stone wall, didn't you give it a try? Let people wait for you here, interesting. At this time, Xiao Wuji spoke, he was waiting, but after waiting for a lot of time, Ye Fusion was somewhat silent. Not. Ye Fusion defeated him in the 3 major ruin areas, so he wanted to see what moves Ye Fusion could make on the Jingxin stone wall. But Ye Fusion started to practice, and it seemed that he had no intention of going to the Jingxin stone wall. Everyone looked at Ye Fusion, which they wanted to ask. Ye Fusion turned his eyes, and looked at Xiao Wuji with a strange look, and said, I asked you to wait. Xiao Wuji's eyes stagnate, looking at Ye Fusion, but speechless. Many people looked at the two, and there was a feeling of arrogance in their dialogue, a simple sentence that seemed to have a bad feeling. However, Ye Fusion's behavior was clearly shameless. Why are his words undeniable? He didn't let everyone wait, he didn't even say that he was going to the Jingxin stone wall. It was only when he broke Xiao Wuji's record of 3 great ruins that everyone took it for granted that he was going to the Jingxin stone wall. But now, Ye Fusion doesn't seem to have such thoughts. Was he unwilling to fight Xiao Wuji? In other words, at this moment, he wasn't sure that he could surpass Xiao Wuji at the Jingxin stone wall, because he planned to continue training for a period of time to improve himself. Let's go. Xiao Wuji said lightly and turned to leave. He had no interest in playing with Ye Fusion here. Tang Ye watched Ye Fusion and then left with Xiao Wuji. Everyone's eyes flickered, and every evil figure had its own pride. Xiao Wuji was clearly not interested in being Ye Fusion's foil. Ye Fusion, what are the qualifications for him to wait here? It seems I have underestimated your talent before. Are you interested in joining my Dong Hazong? Already. I haven't thought about it, Ye Fusion responded with a smile. Okay. Hua Kenchi nodded and said nothing. Everyone thought, it seems that Ye Fusion has no intention of choosing a sect for the time being. The people of all forces have already started training in the ruins area, and they are not looking at Ye Fusion. Some people left, but some of the top troops remained. As for Ye Fusion, the rest of his life, and Ye Wuchen, they were training quietly. With so many relics on the peak of Jingxin Mountain, it is enough to practice for a while, and you can improve yourself. Not only Ye Fusion himself, but the rest of his life and Ye Wuchen can also continue to improve and become stronger. Time passed day by day, Ye Fusion and his party realm improved slightly. A few months later, Ye Fusion, the rest of his life, and Ye Wuchen were all improving. Ye Wuchen stepped into the 6th order method, whereas Ye Fusion and the rest of his life stepped into the 3rd order method. These days, the peak of Jingxin Mountain is very lively, and people often see who is sacred in the rumors that the record-breaking figure is sacred. You have tasted the ruins at the top of the mountain, aren't you planning to go to the Jingxin stone wall? At this time, the wizard Jiu Biu looked at Ye Fusion and asked. What's worrying you? Ye Fusion looked at Jiu Biu Road. These witches were very honest these days, and they were with him all the time. The people from Daezong came to him and he let the other party go. Thinking of attracting you to the demonic sect, Jiu Biu said with a smile, her eyes captivated. What is the charm of Daezongzong? Ye Fusion, whether it is Donghazong or the academy, he has more advantages than Daezongzong. Even Liu Guo is more attractive than Taoism. Oh, Gubu smiled sweetly. Mei Yan appeared. If you are enlightened within the demon sect, how will I serve you? Ye Fusion looked at Gubu's alluring gaze, and said lightly, do your best as a servant, don't think too much. Is it a beauty job? Gubu's eyes stared at him angrily, as if she was extremely sad and dazzling. At this time, in a deserted city, a group of figures came to Jingshan. Although they are not strong, their temperament is very extraordinary, especially one of the women. Even though she is covered by a veil, her temperament is light. Can imagine that she must be a beautiful woman. The woman's beautiful eyes had a faint smile, and finally learned the news about the man. So many voices in the deserted city. Chapter 205, Deadly. The figures who arrived in this line with the Waji language and the other people of the Kangye country. They stepped into the ancient world of the land of hundreds of countries. They traveled far and experienced many things. Sometimes they ask about Ye Fusion's news, sometimes they practice on their own, and they find many relics along the way. They also keep a low profile while understanding it. After all, in places like the old and ancient worlds, although there are many people, they are different from the East. The Tianzhou character in the area is not confident. However, Ye Fusion's man was as high profile as ever, and there were noisy movements everywhere he went. Today, he is very famous in a barren city like the center of the barren ancient world. Ye Fusion is really a mage. The barren city land is where the strong people in the central region of the eastern Badlands meet. He was shocked by the mountains above Mirror Mountain. In a place like the land of the 100 nations, he is too cursed. The news found earlier was a bitter smile. Although they knew Ye Fusion was strong, they did not expect it to be evil. Si Yubai is worried about him, that person is very kind. Ye Lingxi smiled lightly. Hua Jiu nodded slightly. Mei Mei smiled, and said, I heard that the witch is also accepted as a servant, and her life is good, and it is said that the witch Dezong is very beautiful. It's just a servant, don't think too much about that interpretation. Ye Lingxi seemed to feel something unusual. There was something in his words. Ye Dungeon closed his mouth honestly at this time, secretly praying for Ye Fusion in his heart. Hey, who let the man live very intelligently on the outside? I don't think much of it. Hua Jiu smiled. Ye Lingxi's eyes flashed, and the secret way in her heart could only help this. Ye Fusion asked for a blessing. The group continued to approach Jingshan, and they could already see the ancient mountain standing in the deserted city. At this time, Ye Fusion didn't know anything about it. He is still secretly practicing, surrounded by beautiful women. Lu Langxiu is always secretly practicing. Lin Yao looks at him from time to time, and the witch is fighting, sometimes teasing. Ye Fusion was unmoved. How could someone as innocent as him be? Although occasionally enjoying the special treatment of magicians, it was also the duty of the other party as servants. Above Jingshan, many people occasionally see Ye Fusion. After a few days, the man still hasn't moved. Are you really not going to the Jingshan stone wall exhibition to make it open? What was the man thinking? Today, many top-level disciples are here to accompany him to train together, and in his heart he rebukes Ye Fusion as a mess. At this time, a figure came to Ye Fusion's side, Lu Langxiu. Gubu looked at the silver-haired iceberg beauty with a smile. She already knew that this girl was a woman from the ancient country of Lulan, but she voluntarily followed Ye Fusion. What is it? Ye Fusion asked Lu Langxiu as she walked around and asked. Lu Langxiu nodded and asked, I've been brightening the water attribute statue lately, and I can never control it. How did you do that? Ye Fusion gave him a surprise expression and it was very easy to learn. If it's uncomfortable, forget it, Lu Langxiu said. You can try to guide and control the desires in it. Ye Fusion said, but this is not an easy task. In addition to him in the ancient world, I am afraid that it is difficult for others to do so. Lu Langxiu's silver eyes showed a strange expression. She certainly tried, but how could this be done? The will contained within each statue was very strong. It was the will of a pure prince. Even though he had realized the will of the prince, it was almost impossible to suppress or even control the will of the statue. Can you control the will of the statue? Gubu came forward and asked. Just like you. Ye Fusion glanced at him. The servant was not too worried. Do you understand pity and respect for Jade? The mage said pitifully. It seems that he has been greatly harmed, and Ye Fusion ignored him and was used to it. At this moment, there was a line of figures walking up the steps of the Jingshan stairs, which immediately attracted a lot of attention. The first few people had extraordinary temperaments. Could this be the main force coming? There. Among the first few, the young man opened his eyes in one direction. Suddenly a group of people turned their eyes and looked in that direction, which was exactly where Ye Fuxian was. At this time, the two beauties around Ye Fuxian were around. Lulin was icy cold, and Witch Jiu Biu was very enthusiastic. They had different temperaments, but they were both beautiful. Ye Fuxian didn't even see the situation on the stairs. Sometimes someone came from Jingshan, he wouldn't pay attention. But Ye Lingxi saw a strange look when she saw the scene in front of her, and glanced at the woman with the veil and mask around her. Something's wrong. Ye Dungeon grieved for Ye Fuxian in his heart. Something big will happen. Hua Jiu raised her steps and stepped towards Ye Fuxian. Ye Dungeon and Ye Lingxi looked at each other, then followed. Seeing those who came to this line went to Ye Fuxian, many people whispered, "Are they coming for Ye Fuxian?" The woman is headed by a light gauze mask, but her eyes are very beautiful, the figure is perfect. Could someone from the top forces come to win Ye Fuxian? The rest of his life looked to that side, and he saw those people for the first time. When he saw Ye Dungeon and Ye Lingxi, he looked at Hua Jiu again. His body flashed, and the rest of his life walked to Ye Fuxian and stood there. Huh. Ye Fuxian raised the voice in his mouth, looked at Yu Sheng, and asked, "What's wrong?" The rest of his life stared at Angel Ye Fu, and Ye Fuxian showed a strange look. What kind of nerves does this person have? No one knew who had come here and needed such a fuss. His eyes slowly turned. Ye Fuxian saw a line of figures walking to this side, and suddenly he jumped off the ground in an instant, cursing the jerk for the rest of his life. Don't you know to remind yourself? He looked at Lu Langxiu and Witch Jiu Biu next to him. But this does not blame him. It was pure coincidence. How smart a mage is, he instantly discovered Ye Fuxian and his lifelong abnormality. What is it? If it was a top-tier power, how could Ye Fuxian do that? Don't jump too fast. Everyone felt unusual. Who are these people? Whether it was Xiao Wuji or Tang Ye from the academy, Ye Fuxian didn't even care about it. He also burned Li Daoyuan's arm. Who can scare him? Hua Jiu's footsteps finally stopped, and she came to Ye Fuxian not far away. Her beautiful eyes glanced at Lu Langxiu and Jiu Biu, and there was a hint of hatred in her eyes. Then she looked at Ye Fuxian. Ye Dungeon and Ye Lingxi stood behind Hua Jiu, silently staring at Ye Fuxian, thinking that they couldn't help you. Ye Fuxian saw Hua Jiu's eyes as if waiting for judgment. But he thought for a while. It seems he didn't do anything wrong. Shouldn't you be happy to see fairies? Why should you feel guilty? Why you are here? Thinking of this, Ye Fuxian smiled gently, and asked gently, the girl who crossed the lonely world and realized this must not be easy. Hua Jiu Mimu was still staring at him without speaking. Ye Fuxian suddenly felt guilty again, and stared at the rest of his life. Does this person understand the eye and still not help explain it? Zanzi, this is a misunderstanding, they will follow Fuxian themselves. Yu Sheng said. Suddenly the mountain peak seemed silent, and finally understood why this strange atmosphere was born. It turned out so. It caught on the spot. Many people looked at Ye Fuxian with great joy. Isn't this person very arrogant and also afraid? But what does that mean for the rest of my life? Are they actively following Ye Fuxian? This is to sell Lu Langxiu and Jiu Biu directly. Unexpectedly, Witch Dezong turned out to be very sad and posted it actively. At this moment, Jiu Biu's beautiful eyes showed a strange color, and Lu Langxiu's beautiful eyes flashed a strange light. Previously, in Lulan Kingdom, his mother wanted to match him with Ye Fuxian, and Ye Fuxian said that he had a woman he loved. Is it the woman in front of me? Lin Yao had better stand behind, but a word of the rest of her life made her a little messy. Wouldn't she count it? Very sad. It turns out that you have a woman. Why don't you tell me? At this time, the witch Jiu Biu said wrongly, looking at Ye Fuxian with a pitiful expression, like a simple girl who was deceived. When Ye Bishan heard Jiu Biu's words, there was an urge to hit him. Everyone around was already mourning for Ye Fuxian. A beauty like Jiu Biu showed such a look, it was almost attractive, and they all couldn't stand it. Ye Fuxian still wants to explain clearly. Hua Jiu looked at Jiu Biu, then put her hand on her face, and slowly lifted the veil to reveal a perfect face. When everyone saw that face, their eyes were lost for a moment. Beauty, indescribable beauty, like perfect jasper, has no flaws. Ye Fuxian sighed. Whether it's Jiu Biu, Lu Langxiu, or Lin Yao, are all very beautiful, but when Hua Xiu takes the veil, it seems to be the only heroine. Seeing that face, many people looked at Ye Fuxian with jealousy. There are only so many beautiful women around this man. There is also a beautiful woman in the family, who is almost a beast. Jiu Biu and Lu Langxiu's beautiful eyes were also condensed. Is this why beauty is useless? Hua Jeyu's eyes were beautiful, looked at Ye Fusion, then stepped to his side, looking into his eyes. There was not a violent storm as everyone imagined, but a very gentle voice. I miss you. There was only one voice, more than 1,000 words, and the voice seemed to be heartbreaking and gentle, and many people couldn't help but shake. Hearing this gentle voice, looking at the face in front of me, and the eyes with endless affection, Ye Fusion's heart seemed to melt, but he faintly gave birth to guilt, but he obviously did nothing. The words I miss you are deadlier than any words. Chapter 206, Murder from the Hanging King Shrine. On the mountain peak, countless eyes stared at the stunning figure, and the endless soft voice made everyone feel tenderness in their hearts. Is there such a woman? Ye Fusion is actually the niece of the flower and grass. The eyes of everyone who saw Ye Fusion were envious and jealous, but when they saw Ye's handsome face and blooming talent, when the two stood together, they were a perfect match, as if they were born to be one double. When Lu Langxiu saw this scene, she lowered her head slightly. Her mother says that she will have feelings when she hangs out for a long time. Men are always 3 and 4. He is very kind. Ye Fusion will soon forget that the woman he loves likes him. Although he had nothing at that time, special thoughts, but also vaguely felt that the mother was right. However, at this moment Lu Langxiu understood that her mother was wrong. The woman he loves is said to be far superior to his mother's imagination. No wonder his mother forced him to marry her, and he refused anyway. Behind Wajayu, Ye Lingxi and Ye Dunchen looked at each other. Imaginary images did not appear. On the contrary, Wajayu's gentle voice should make people's hearts melt. Ye Lingxi smiled lightly, and only a woman like Wajayu could surrender to Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion looked at the beautiful eyes that were close, his heart melted, and he stretched out his hand. Ye Fusion held Hua Jayu's cheek in his hand and said softly, I miss you too. What he actually said was that he would return to Kangye before the end of the year, but did not expect that Siyu had traveled to the ancient world to come to him, and he also came here. Hua Jayu smiled sweetly and brilliantly. She turned her eyes, glanced at Jiu Biu and Lu Langxiu, then lowered her head, as if there was a slight mistake. Is there anything I can't do well? Hua Jayu slowly looked up, looking at Ye Fusion with feeling. No. Ye Fusion saw the endless pity in Waji's appearance. Okay. Hua Jayu looked relieved, and smiled brightly. If you want to do something, tell me, I promise you. Okay. Ye Fusion nodded, then turned to look at the wizard Jiu Biu and said, her name is Jiu Biu, who previously beat me at stake against me, then promised to be my mate, but the servant is so dishonest, just now don't take it seriously, he did it on purpose. Well, you don't need to explain, I trust you. Hua Jayu smiled gently. Jiu Biu looked at Hua Jayu, and she finally understood why her beauty schemes repeatedly failed, not because she wasn't charming enough, but because someone was too evil. There is nothing more to do with you in the future, the bet will stop, you go. Ye Fusion said to the wizard Jiu Biu. Jiu Biu looked at him sadly and said, did you abandon someone like this? Down. Ye Fusion's face was black. Suddenly, Jiu Biu smiled and looked at Ye Fusion, you are ruthless. Then he stepped away and didn't forget to glance at the joke. I know Lu Langxiu in Lulan City. Previously, I snatched the ruins from the ancient ruins and then left with them. Lin Yao met before in Qianmeng City and trained together in the ancient and ancient worlds together. Ye Fusion was honest. Explain clearly. Yes. Hua Jayu said with a gentle smile, I heard that there are many princely relics here, and I have encountered many things on the road lately. Cultivation has increased, and you taught me to understand it. Okay. Ye Fusion nodded and said to Hua Jayu, these statues contain various will attributes, each statue represents a kind of attribute. Do you have the prince's luck now? Otherwise, we will go to another place to catch Yun gas. Almost, I walked through the Wanghao caves in Qianmeng land before, and heard there were a lot of voices in the three of you. Hua Jayu smiled and looked at Ye Fusion. In the cave corridor, Ye Fusion asked. Come. Hua Jayu nodded gently. My goblin is great, Ye Fusion smiled, then we go to other ruins to understand luck, and then come here later. Everyone listens to you. Hua Jayu said softly, and then the two left the side holding hands and went to another place to practice. They looked at them dumbfoundedly. Was this their time of absence? The rest of his life looked at the people around him, but he was calm and used to it. Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes showed a strange look. Is this one thing? Ye Fusion and Hua Jayu really went to the ruins to practice. Ye Fusion was on the side to guide. Hua Jayu understood, and the witches Jiu Biu and Lin Yao saw the scene and expressed their grievances. This treatment is different. No one had enjoyed such treatment before. Did he see us? Ye Dungeon asked Ye Lingxi looking at him. Of course I saw it. Ye Lingxi smiled and said, however, I don't have time to ignore us. Ye Dungeon had black lines on his face, and they came from thousands of miles away. Is it easy? It turned out that I was ignored, without greeting. Very sad. Ah, let's practice too, there are many relics here. Ye Dungeon sighed, but don't think about Hua Sheiyu's treatment, practice calmly. Therefore, for the next period of time, many people at the top of the mountain just watched Ye Fusion practice alone, waiting silently. Now, it has come to his attention and Wajayu is practicing. Wajayu's life soul changed and evolved and became stronger after being transformed by the ruler of the country. His talent had also been sublimated. He has full status talent. He majored in the spiritual department of the Destiny Mage. He can understand the ruins. Moreover, he didn't turn Fortune Chi into a Prince of Fortune Chi before long. Of course, this was also because he had accumulated a lot of luck before. But in Ye Fusion's view, Wang Hu Qian is still not enough. He continues to help Wajayu to look at it and let him understand the statue. With all his talents, he can understand the will of all statues and improve every day. Not only Sheiyu's language development, Ye Fusion, the rest of his life, Ye Yechen, everyone is improving, and his wealth is getting stronger and stronger. Time passed unknowingly, and the storm that Ye Fusion and Xiao Wuji created gradually subsided, and it was mentioned by less and less people. Ye Fusion's people are now busy with flowers, and he doesn't have the heart to go to the Mirror Mountain stone wall inspection talent, when this guy intends to be a candidate. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. Eastern waste, hang the king's palace. Above the majestic ancient temple, it seems to be among the clouds. At this moment, a young man stood on the edge of a palace and stood with both hands on his shoulders, looking at the rolling sea of clouds ahead. Rising high and looking far away, standing above the king of the king's palace and looking at the situation below, the state of mind will also become more open, giving birth to a high spirit of aspirations. Jinggalin, what are you doing? At this time, a soft voice came, and the young man's eyes slowly turned, and he saw a beautiful woman approaching him, and the young man's eyes were gentle. Thinking of something, said the young man. Right after closing the retreat, breaking the mirror, and being annoying. The woman smiled gently. It turned out that the figure of the young man impressed the prince of the southern Dao Luo Luo to come, but since he came to train in the suspended king temple, he had no interest in the prince. Although the Nan Dao king is his, this everyone knows, but now, leave it to others. The outside world is so exciting, in this amazing era, all parties in the eastern wasteland are fighting for hegemony, and Tianzhao is gathering, how can he voluntarily return for a day? Even though the emperor's position was high, he could do whatever he wanted, but it didn't matter what it meant to enjoy honor and power by staying in one place. That's not the pursuit. Today, he has already set foot in the sky, and sooner or later he will become a prince, and to the south of Mount Dojang there is nothing. Luo Junlin hugged the woman who came in his arms, still looking at the sea of clouds, whispered softly, I want to go back at the end of the year, some things are not resolved, I am not sure. Is that what you said? The woman looked at him gently, and said, why would someone in the world of glory become restless? Get rid of it. His talent is very good. At this time, the ancient world is open. After he is built to be strong, it is very likely that he will win the prince's wealth and be rewarded by the top forces. Where talent can become extraordinary again, even if you are really lucky to join the top forces, you don't have to worry. The woman smiled and said, if you can't be convinced, I asked my father to send someone to follow me. I went on a journey, how dare you stop me? Don't bother master with my personal matters, I'll go back and find a solution myself this time, Luo Junlin said. Then I said to my father, come back with you, and let an uncle take us there, maybe we can help you, the woman said softly. Will master agree? Luo Junlin hesitated a little. Father likes you, why doesn't he agree? When you enter the realm of the prince, let's get married. I will meet your family this time. Father shouldn't mind. The woman smiled, and Luo Junlin nodded slightly. Softly said, thank you, if master doesn't agree, forget it. Not. The woman snuggled lightly into Luo Jun's arms, only to see Luo Jun's eyes continue to stare at the sea of clouds, a sharp sharpness flashed across her eyes. He remembered Nan Daogo's arrogant figure listening to the wind party. Are they okay now? Did you go to the wilderness? With their talent, waiting for the refinement to become stronger, I am afraid that they can really make a difference in the ancient world. Unfortunately, there will be no chance to grow up. This time I'm back, I fully understand the issue, to avoid long dreams and dampen possible threats in the cradle. Ever since stepping into the deferred king temple, he had walked on thin ice, trained madly, and chased after Lord's daughter at the same time. There are too many strong people in the suspended King of Kings. Tianzhao is like a cloud. If he wanted to climb higher than the others, he had to try harder. During these months of retreat, he broke through the skies and was one step closer to the prince. Chapter 207, In the Name of Kang Ye. Of course, Ye Fuxian would not know the King's killing intent. Of course, he came to the ancient world to join the top forces to solve this matter. Luo Jun's presence in the suspended king temple was a threat in the end, especially for the Kang Ye kingdom. Ye Tianzi was good to him, and naturally he couldn't see the Kang Ye kingdom suffering. On the peak of Jingshan mountain, there are many relics. All this time, he accompanied Hua Jiu to understand the statues of each ruin, and Hua Jiu's luck was getting stronger and stronger. Of course, this is because his own talent is also strong, and full of attributes, all relics can practice and understand, otherwise even with Ye Fuxian's help, it will be difficult to make much progress. Many people have left today, and they really can't wait. They think Ye Fuxian and Xiao Wuji should be the same when telling the ancestors, right? At least, let the main forces prepare for Jingshan. At this time, Jingshan calmed down a little, the wind slowly blew, and the sun warmed up. Many people practiced alone. At this time, a figure walked calmly towards the stone wall of Jingshan mountain. Someone saw his figure flashing, right? Will he audition for Rockwall Mountain again? Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes glanced briefly, looking at the figure heading towards the Jingshan stone wall. It was Ye Wuchen. The others didn't pay attention, but he saw that not long ago, Ye Fuxian, Yu Sheng, and Ye Wuchen seemed to be chatting, and then Ye Wuchen went to the Jingshan stone wall. What does this mean? Liu Shenyu looked at the Jingshan stone wall, and saw Ye Wuchen walking over there to sit down and release his luck. How does it feel that the sword will be different? It looks even more terrifying. Feeling dangerous. Ye Fuxian is not surprised. Ye Wuchen is not only a sword refiner, but also a spiritual master. Moreover, his soul is a silver sword, a natural sword refiner. The understanding and practice of volition is on a spiritual level. Ye Wuchen understood the will of the sword, and combined the will of luck and spiritual power. The prince who was born would be a little different from the others. The power will be stronger, only the spiritual sword is invisible. That is, he now has strong attacking power. If the opponent did not have the will of a prince, he would be easily crushed even if he crossed the kingdom. Even though it is a moderate prince, it will never be weaker than a superior prince. After Ye Wuchen had the sword prince, he devoured the swordsman prince Fuyun Janzong. At this moment, the Jingshan stone wall once again seemed to be transparent, and an invisible power enveloped Ye Wuchen's body. Gradually, they all turned their eyes to Ye Wuchen. Ye Wuchen challenged the Jingshan stone wall. Ye Dunchen and Ye Lingxi also looked there. Their cousin, who trained with Ye Fuxian in the ancient world, now didn't know which level. Gradually, a statue of a prince was revealed on the stone wall of Jingshan. No one was surprised. When Ye Wuchen just came to the Jingshan stone wall a few months ago, 2 prince statues were revealed on the stone wall. Sure enough, the figure of the second prince immediately appeared. Can he challenge the statue of the 3 princes? Everyone's eyes flashed, and Liu Shenyu's beautiful eyes stared there, faintly staring ahead. Although it was very difficult for the 3rd prince to appear, Ye Wuchen had made great progress from last time, and his realm had also been upgraded. It's still possible. I saw the invisible power that covered Ye Wuchen's body. The bright light of the Jingshan stone wall was released, and a prince's figure seemed to be looming, which caused many people to subconsciously tighten their eyes and stare closely at the Jingshan stone wall. A voluptuous aura was about to erupt from Ye Wuchen's body, and a sword air swept through the surrounding world, only to see that the image of the prince on the Jingshan stone wall became more and more solid, and finally became a substance, as if imprinted on the stone wall. The statue of the 3rd prince appeared. It's strong. Everyone looked at Ye Wuchen. Previously, everyone only paid attention to Ye Fuxian, but seemed to ignore the people around him. This one-handed sword repair is terrible for talent. In the ancient world, only the top-level demon figures exposed the image of the 4th prince on the Jingshan stone wall, but only a few people. It's scary to have 3 pictures of princes. Today, Ye Wuchen had done it. An invisible force emerged from the stone wall, and then entered Ye Wuchen's body. He still didn't leave, and still tried to challenge the statue of the 4th prince. Under the shocking gazes of the people, the figure of the 4th prince towered. But in the end, he groaned, and the image of the soaring prince failed to appear. But the eyes of the people at the peak of Jingshan mountain still looked bright at Ye Wuchen. Shenyu, you seem to have a good relationship with him. Liu Feiyang smiled at the sister next to him. Don't think too much. Liu Shenyu didn't care about his brother. He has just stepped into the sixth phase, and has great potential, said Liu Feiyang, and, both in appearance and temperament are extremely outstanding. Liu Shenyu is speechless. Is there such a brother? What does this mean? The brilliance of the Jingshan stone wall remained. Ye Wuchen looked at the Jingshan stone wall, and slowly said, the land of 100 countries, Kangye country, Ye Wuchen. After all, he turned around and left the Jingshan stone wall. Kangye kingdom, Ye Wuchen. Everyone's eyes widened, remembering the names of the Kangye kingdom in Ye Wuchen. He came from a remote marginal area of Eastern Desolation, the land of 100 nations, and the people of their Eastern Desolation rarely traveled to that place and were too far away. Ye Wuchen, what does he mean by saying this? The people with the top troops stepped forward and seemed to want to invite Ye Wuchen, but at this moment, everyone saw Ye Fusion and Hua Jiu walking towards the Jingshan stone wall. Go, Ye Fusion said softly. Huh. Hua Jiu nodded slightly, and then stepped forward to the stone wall of Jingshan mountain. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on this side. They all faintly felt that what they had been waiting for so long would happen. Hua Xiu came to the stone wall of Jingshan mountain, and his luck was released. Suddenly, the princes of all attributes bloomed and shook. Many people just felt their hearts twitch and stared at the scene in front of them. I saw a lot of prince luck for Hua Jiu, and it was a great fortune. Jiu Biu, the witch, never left, and Lu Langxiu also looked at Hua Jiu, and they realized that the woman who made Ye Fusion ignore them was not only shocking. Ling Yao's eyes were lost for a while. Is the gap so big? Ye Fusion bastard, if he can help with his training like Hua Jiu, he must also have princely luck. Immediately, the figure of the prince appeared. Then came the statue of the second prince. Many people were twitching, and they had a faint feeling that something big was about to happen. Hurry up and tell the Zongmen people. A person with a top army said, they have gone a lot, and now it seems that their identity is not enough to impress Ye Fusion. It's too late, said someone, who thought these people suddenly short, unmarked, and did not say the time before like Xiao Wuji. The release of the bright Jingshan stone wall is getting brighter, and gradually, the statue of the third prince appears, and the hearts of many people tremble again. Another genius who made the Jingshan stone wall revealed 3 prince statues. He also has the best luck, and he seems to be a complete magician of destiny. Hua Jiu challenged the figure of the fourth prince, and like Ye Wuchen, he failed after all. Looking at the Jingshan stone wall, he whispered, Kangye kingdom, Hua Jiu. It's Kangye country again. Everyone trembled inside. Ye Dunchen and Ye Lingxi jolted their hearts. The brothers and sisters looked at each other with shock in their eyes. They were vaguely aware that the Kangye country was about to become famous. Hua Jiu returned to Ye Fusion, and saw Ye Fusion smiling brightly. Then, beside Ye Fusion, the rest of his life stepped forward and came to the Jingshan stone wall. Do you want to continue? Everyone stared at the burly figure, and the rest of the release of the air of life, willpower, golden will, wind will bloom together, all will be princes. One more thing, good luck. Everyone is a little numb, the rest of their lives in Vajayu cultivation, but they only have the third order method, but they are all good princes. When is the prince lucky? So easy. The brilliance of the Jingshan stone wall once again released light, covering the body for a lifetime. Only a moment later, the figure of a prince appeared. Will there be 3 more prince statues? Many people tremble. And there are 4 people who want to show the 3 evil princes of the Jingshan stone wall. Not long after, the statue of the second prince appeared on the stone wall of Jingshan. Many people took deep breaths. The 3 prince statues should be fine. As they expected, a moment later, the statue of the 3 princes appeared on the stone wall of Jingshan, and a strong light fell on the body of the rest of his life. What's happening today? They were silent. Jiu Biu's beautiful eyes sparkled, and Liu Shenyu's heart trembled slightly. This pedestrian is very evil. On the stone wall of Jingshan, the fourth prince like a towering figure appeared, but they didn't really care. Ye Wuchen and Hua Jiu had done it before, but in the end, they had to be the same. But the 3 of them had taken them by surprise. Gradually, the image of the fourth prince became clearer and clearer, and the fictional time became shorter and shorter, as if it would be condensed. Look, someone shouted. This is not possible. Everyone's eyes stared at the Jingshan stone wall. The statue of the fourth prince was turned into a substance. Under their shocked gazes, statues of the 4 princes were revealed and imprinted on the stone wall. This. Many people's hearts trembled, and the 4 kings of the Jingshan stone wall were like that, which only the top criminals could achieve. Now, for the rest of his life, he has done it. Moreover, he only used the third order method. Kangye Kingdom, the rest of my life. A roar came out, and everyone's hearts trembled with it. Kangye Kingdom, the leaves are dust-free. Kangye and Hayu countries. Kangye Kingdom, the rest of his life. In the name of Kangye. Chapter 208, Waves. With the roar of the rest of their lives, everyone's hearts trembled. What place is the Kangye Kingdom? The three arrogant figures, who tested the talent on the Jingshan stone wall, were all dazzling, comparable to the top arrogant in the eastern wasteland, especially for the rest of their lives. 4 prince figures appeared, and Xiao Wuji also stopped here. This is a record, and the remaining life is leveled by the third order method. Besides, since Ye Wuchen, Hua Jiu and the rest of his life were all from the Kangye Kingdom, what about Ye Fusion? In the wild area of the 100 Nations land, there was even a small country that had cultivated so many bad people. And why are these people so famous with Kangye in the name of Kangye? At this moment, countless gazers were looking in one direction, of course where Ye Fusion was. Today, Ye Wuchen, Hua Xiu, and the rest of his life showed an open foe. Then, let everyone wait a long time, he should have shot him. The rest of his life walked to the side, then stood on the side, and looked at Ye Fusion. Under everyone's gaze, the figure stepped forward and walked towards the Jingshan stone wall. This person. Countless eyes stared at the figure, and after waiting for so long, he was finally about to shoot. Since the rest of his life was able to show the 4 prince statues on the Jingshan stone wall, he should be able to do the same. Ye Fusion stepped in front of the Jingshan stone wall, facing the stone wall, his luck was released. Suddenly, the dazzling princes of various attributes jumped, intertwined and beautiful. Sure enough, those are all attributes. Everyone's heart trembled. In terms of talent, the distance from Ye Fusion surpasses Xiao Wuji, and it is only an examination of the Jingshan stone wall. As long as he can level up Xiao Shao's record, let Jingshan stone wall reveal the 4 prince figures, in terms of attributes and appearance on the mountain peak, can be considered surpassing Xiao Wuji. At this moment, everyone felt that they might witness the birth of another top-level evil genius in the ancient world. The luck of Ye Fusion's body rushed straight into the Jingshan stone wall. Instantly, the light of the Jingshan stone wall shone, and the stone wall enveloped Ye Fusion like a mirror. At this moment, Ye Fusion only felt that his consciousness had entered the stone wall of Jingshan mountain. This is the void of space, like inside a rock mountain wall. The terrible will was directly suppressed, it was the will of the prince, then, the figure changed by the prince would oppress Ye Fusion. However, how terrible is Ye Fusion's will now? The prince of the flames exploded, and the maple leaves fluttered, directly imprinted on the will of the prince who appeared, and instantly burned. Instantly, on the stone wall of Jingshan, there was a prince. The picture is out. It's very fast. People outside saw the prince like a whisper appeared for a while, this is too soon. It seemed like the first prince was not the least bit of a threat to him. In the void, the figure of the second prince appeared, a figure that was transformed by the will of pure fire, and burned towards Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion's will, transformed by the will, looked indifferent, the power of the ice will was released, and everything froze. The flames will instantly cover the ice, and then thunder will break out and destroy everything. The flames will soon disappear into nothingness. On the stone wall of Jingshan, the figure of the second prince appeared. 2 prince figures, Tianzhao figures from many of the top forces in the eastern wasteland, can do it. But the next 3 princes are a big challenge, and many people fall here. The people who can reveal the 3 princes are all evil figures of all forces. The third prince appeared in front of Ye Fusion, but was changed by the will, the prince of the flame, and the extremely pure flame would give Ye Fusion the feeling that he was the prince of the emperor who met in the ancient ruins of Lulan. He relied on divine will to annihilate each other. When Ye Wuchen first challenged, he was defeated by the third prince. This terrifying figure was surrounded by flames, as if lava flames flowed into him, like a demon king of refining fire. He stepped out, towards Ye Fusion's will, and a terrifying burning power flew into Ye Fusion's hands, to burn Ye Fusion's will inward. Absence. Ye Fusion's will was transformed into the body of the furnace, which was also bathed in endless fire, with the light of the sun shining, like a sun god, and his whole body flashed with an ancient character like fire. Whether the highest prince level fire will, he also wants to try his own fire will, can he overcome the limit? The 2 bodies of fire walked towards each other at the same time, and a terrifying flame exploded. The Purgatory Demon King's body and the Sun Furnace's body collided wildly, and the fire airflow was extremely violent for a while. At this point, Ye Fusion already understood some things. When he stepped into the stone wall of Jingshan, he was the first to release the fire, and then the fire would strengthen again and again. Now there is a terrible fire prince, and it is integrated into the prince's fire. Strength is released in practice and it collides with his will. No wonder Wu Chen defeated the first time he stepped into Jingshan Mountain. The second time, he seemed to break his own limits with Kendo, only to let the three princes of the Jingshan stone wall be exposed. Because Dustless can do it, he naturally does not use the will of the empire, but fights purely with his own will to shoot, without even using any other willpower. At this time, he naturally understood that the superior luck had the will of the multi-prince to occupy some advantage when breaking through the stone walls of Jingshan Mountain. On the body of the Purgatory Demon Lord, ancient characters gradually appeared, vaguely like fire, inflammation, and cricket. This ancient character shone with golden light, and gradually burned the Purgatory Demon's body, becoming brighter and brighter. Incomparably, gradually, the entire body of the Purgatory Demon Lord was burned, and the huge body gradually became the three ancient characters. Finally, it turned into an invisible willpower and rushed to Ye Fusion's body. At this time, the statue of the third prince on the stone wall of Jingshan appeared, and an invisible power was poured into Ye Fusion's body. Starting with the image of the third prince, exposure of every image of the prince could benefit from it. Three statues of princes. Countless eyes stared at the figure in front of the Jingshan stone wall. Only one statue of the prince remained, and the footage was flattened, just like Xiao Wuji. This move was difficult, but once he stepped out, the meaning was different. The rest of my life took that step, but the rest of my life is not as handsome as Xiao Wuji, so even though everyone thinks that the talent of the rest of his life is very high, they will not think he is stronger than Xiao Wuji, but Ye Fusion is in the top 3 ruins before the performance of all people are in the eyes. If it can be recorded on the Jingshan stone wall, the meaning will be different. At this time, the Jingshan stone wall was empty, and Ye Fusion's eyes once again appeared as a princely figure transformed by his will. This figure split directly, and there was a strong and powerful figure of the fire prince around, and each figure seemed to contain the will of the supreme prince. Ye Fusion's heart is dark, no wonder many Tianzhou characters stop here and can't take this step. Crossing it, you can call him the top evil genius in the Eastern Wasteland. These figures that appeared instantly exploded and attacked at the same time. At the same time, this world completely turned into a world of fire, burning everything and flooding the space. Enter Ye Fusion raised his head, and a terrifying sharp meaning flashed across his eyes. Instantly, the meaning of the extreme frozen seal bloomed. The whole world seems to have turned into a world of ice, facing the power of fire. The terrifying flames broke the ice frantically, and continued to explode towards Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion seemed to have a cold moon behind him, and a terrible cold light was seeping from him. The fire goes out wherever it passes. A terrible ice storm blew from the heavens and the earth, and the place lit by the cold moon instantly solidified. But how terrifying the many princes of fire are! The flames turned into a river of magma, flowed on the ice, and continued to curl up towards Ye Fusion, and the terrifying fire figure killed the ice world, raising the palm of the flame towards the fusion leaf flapping. Boom! In the ice world, Ye Fusion fled, and a huge ice stick appeared in his hand, faintly shining with golden light, containing not only ice desire, but also gold and earth attribute desire power. He waved his hand, and suddenly the clubbing danced, and a storm came out. His footsteps were like a cape being swept away by a long stick, and instantly the prince's will exploded and shattered. A stronger power exploded from him. He rushed out, holding a long stick, sweeping everything in the sky with 9 strikes, and his strength continued to increase. The loud bang bang continued, and before long, the figure of the fire prince exploded, and finally became invisible, and the world seemed to restore peace. On the stone wall of Jingshan Mountain, another invisible force rushed to Ye Fusion, as if giving him some benefits. At the same time, the image of the fourth prince towering from the Jingshan stone wall was revealed. The statue of the fourth prince appears. At this time, countless people's hearts trembled. Ye Fusion did, full attribute talent. The Mirror Mountain stone wall revealed the 4 prince statues, and the 3 major regions of destruction completely suppressed Xiao Wuji. In the ancient world, another future evil figure in the Eastern Wasteland was born. Is it too late? The people with the top forces trembled in their hearts. They don't send someone to stay here all the time. Ye Fusion suddenly decided to take a picture. Nothing is ready. Now, with their weight, can Ye Fusion choose the sect? They do not know. At this time, several prince figures of the major forces also witnessed the scene that occurred on the side of the Jingshan stone wall, and their hearts were quite shaken. What's happening today? 4 strong men were tested in front of the stone wall of Jingshan Mountain, and 2 of them showed 3 statues of princes and 2 of them had 4 statues of princes. Moreover, they were all from the Kangye kingdom. At this time, the top-level figures of the peak forces asked, what happened to the people in the Kangye kingdom? They wondered if they could let them join their army. Chapter 209, What to See. If there is only one evil demon on the Jingshan stone wall, and 4 demon juniors appear at the same time, it is hard not to get the attention of the elders of Wang Hojing. Not to mention, these people were from the same place, the Kangye kingdom. With their talents, even the top forces in the eastern wasteland could not find such 4 people. After all, characters who can show the 4 princely figures on the Jingshan stone wall are extremely rare, let alone 2 people appearing at the same time. They are ready to invite people to the ancient world. Of course, the people of the Jingshan stone wall were not aware of this, but they also hoped that the names of these 4 people would be mentioned frequently in the future, and many of the top forces in the eastern wasteland would know of their existence. Also, the country name Oba. He continued. At this time, everyone noticed that Ye Fusion was still standing in front of the Jingshan stone wall and was not moving. Like Xiao Wuji before, he still wanted to try after the 4 prince statues were displayed on the Jingshan stone wall. However, this record has never been broken, and Ye Fusion can't do the same. Over the years, the Jingshan stone wall has been used as a testing ground for talent, and all the top forces from the eastern wasteland have come here. However, the top evil people can only let the Jingshan stone wall show the 4 prince statues. No one can do it let the figure of the 5th prince appear. It is said that there are top-level monsters who claim that after all, they are in the realm of lore, and it is impossible to do so without actually stepping into the prince. Xiao Wuji also expressed his emotions after the day's attempt, fearing that the statue of the 5th prince would never appear. You can imagine how difficult it is to have such emotions. Maybe it will be a record that can never be broken. At this time, Ye Fusion appeared in front of Ye Fusion in the space of the Jingshan stone wall. When he stood in front of Ye Fusion, he was like an inescapable king. In his body, Ye Fusion felt a threat, a very strong threat. I saw Ye Fusion's terrifying will bloom, with a long stick in his hand, as if he could level the heavens. He stepped forward step by step, with an incomparable momentum in his body, and then, with a single blow, there was a hidden power. I saw the figure, the terrifying power of will bloomed wildly, a touch of golden light flashed out, turned into a terrible round of golden light curtains, and finally coalesced into a huge ancient bell squatting there. A huge roar came out, and the ancient bell shattered, but the bell was not completely shattered. Obviously, this golden ancient bell is also a powerful defensive spell. After this shot fell, the mighty prince reached out. This hand continued to stick out, straight out of the ancient bell, and turned into a terrifying vine tentacle, crazily rolled onto Ye Fusion's body. Ye Fusion's body was quickly evacuated backwards, but he saw the other person's body like the wind, almost thunder, crackling sound came out, and the vines wanted to drown Ye Fusion's body. Is the prince's will full of all attributes? Ye Fusion quietly said to him. He finally understood why Xiao Wuji was defeated, and no one has ever been able to break the record of the 4 prince figures. After all, the state of law is not a true prince, faced with the strong will of the princes with all their attributes, it is almost impossible to overcome. In that case, the 5 prince statues might be the limit. The Jingshan stone wall likely only featured up to 5 statues of the prince. The same Ye Fusion weaver will cover his body, reach the limit, and at the same time, the sky above him, the sun and moon hanging, fire and ice alternately, a terrifying flame blooms, ancient words appear, and golden flames out from the fire, it fell on the rolled vines and burned them continuously. The opponent was changed by the prince of all attributes, and so was he. The moonlight fell, and it became very cold, and wanted to freeze the figure that was moving forward. Under the alternation of cold and heat, fire and ice yin and yang, suffocating each other's bodies. Yes, the person's footsteps stepped forward, and the horror-grade spirituality would bloom violently. An extremely terrifying gravitational force suppressed. Ye Fusion only felt that his body became very heavy, and it seemed that there was water flowing on the body of another person. The swirling sound continued, and the powerful spell that Ye Fusion struck on the opponent went hand in hand with the water flowing around his body. The other party's eyes also became extremely terrifying. An invisible spiritual spell came. At this moment, Ye Fusion only felt that his body was in a mental cage. I saw that at this time, Ye Fusion's eyes had also become terrifying. The terrifying mental storm was like burning the spiritual will of others and devouring all spiritual power. Between the heavens and the earth, there seems to be an endless golden light, like gold pieces, suffocating along with the wind towards the other body, and the endless golden light is like a Gangean storm, destroying the other body, and the maple leaves leaving like fire. They are all magical powers that come from statues. I heard another loud sound, another stepped forward, and an even more terrifying power appeared. The world seemed to be silent. The whirling and swirling hurricane Gangean stagnates in the void, and Ye Fusion's body is like is stiff there. Blending the prince's will perfectly with a power spell. It is not surprising that in the ancient world, no one has ever broken the 4 records and allowed 5 statues to appear on the stone wall of Jingshan Mountain. This is a genius, and it is a true limit that cannot be surpassed. But Ye Fusion didn't believe it. There is no limit in this world, this limit is used for rest. Behind him, the golden winged Daping's wings shone, and his body was like a dragon. The whole person became extremely tall, like a ape, which could shake the world. The sun and moon hung high, suffocating everything. His spiritual will erupted, and he was like a young emperor. The long staff was in hand, and it appeared in one blow, hit directly in the invisible air, and made a dull sound. A terror gathered around him. He continued to step stronger and wanted to break the gravity spell suppression. The figure saw the endless light of lightning blooming in this scene, and it turned into a thunderous sky, fell directly on Ye Fusion and fell on Ye Fusion. The thunder fused with the prince's will wants to tear Ye Fusion's will body, but at this time he will very strong, and is baptized with endless thunder. The stick in his hand continues to dance, and the power of the thunder is even introduced to the stick and swept away again, and the space around it seemed to be damaged. The sun and moon yin and yang, descending on the opponent's body, Ye Fusion continued to take another step, another blow, breaking the void and cutting off the road. His strength is getting more and more terrifying, and he wants to destroy the world and flatten the world. Okay. A loud sound, Ye Fusion rose to the sky, descended into the sky, like a god, the long stick waved, the cape rod, the dragon screamed, and Shen Peng came to the world. The figure looked up, then turned into light, all kinds of wills intertwined around the body, like a peerless prince, heading towards Ye Fusion in the void. The two figures collided, and the heavens and the earth flashed an extremely dazzling light. Outside, countless eyes fell on the stone wall of Jingshan and the figure. They saw Ye Fusion's body release a terrifying power. Wang Huqiun frantically bloomed onto the rock mountain mirror wall. Everyone's mental state seemed to rise to the extreme. He was still challenging the statue of the 5th prince of the Jingshan stone wall, but the statue of the prince was unlikely to appear at all. The soaring statue of the Jingshan stone wall was unpredictable and there was no sign of solidification. He's still fighting, he hasn't given up, someone whispered. It seems unwilling and willing to challenge. Xiao Wuji did the same before, but in the end, I feel that the statue of the 5th prince will never appear. People discussed, and even discussed which door Ye Fusion would choose to join. Donghazong Academy, or the Qin dynasty, Liu Guo. As they were talking, the sky suddenly seemed to light up a little. I saw a dazzling brilliance on the stone wall of Jingshan. What is it? Everyone turned their eyes, all looked at the Jingshan stone wall, and then they saw the unprecedented bloom on the Jingshan stone wall, shining on Ye Fusion's body. On the stone wall, the statue of the 5th prince did not appear, the 4 prince statues actually moved, rotating on the mirror mountain stone wall, showing the 4 major directions faintly. Then, they all faced the middle fantasy. The image of the prince was lost, and finally turned into the only image of the prince. A dazzling light erupted from the prince image that appeared, and the stone image condensed, and then appeared as a light that shot out from the mirror mountain rock wall. A small stone statue was suspended in front of Ye Fusion. In this small stone statue, the statue is changed by the purest will of the prince. This. People's hearts trembled, and then they were shocked to find that the light on the Jingshan stone wall had dimmed and became no longer shining. Not only did the image of the prince disappear, but the entire wall of the mountain rock mirror, no longer in the past, did not have the prince's strong will. What did he do? Everyone looked at Ye Fusion. The statue of the 5 princes did not appear, but Ye Fusion dimmed the stone wall of Jingshan. At this time, among the top forces in the eastern wasteland, some princes suddenly couldn't see the scenery of the Jingshan stone wall in the ancient world. The spell seems to have been extinguished. Many people ask, what happened? Ye Fusion was also stunned, then firmly held the stone statue in his hand and folded it, and his body turned to Wajayu's side. Many eyes stared at him as if seeing a monster. Who will tell them what happened? This person swallowed the will of the Jingshan stone wall. Seeing the gloomy stone wall, like the most ordinary stone wall, many people twitched their hearts. Did the man come to destroy or damage it? What is the little stone statue in his hand? It is the will of the Jingshan stone wall. What is there to see? The rest of his life saw people look at Ye Fusion strangely, and shouted at them, dissatisfied. Chapter 210, Escort. Start high-speed text sync readings on your phone. Everyone looked at the rest of their lives silently, then their eyes looked at Ye Fusion again, and their hearts were very restless. Although I don't know why the Jingshan stone wall is like that, there is no doubt about it. Ye Fusion did what countless Tianzhou in the East Wasteland had never done. For many years, endless Tianzhou came to Jingshan stone wall to test his talent, but no one did what Ye Fusion did today. Imagine how arrogant and humiliating Ye Fusion would be when Tang Ye arrived. Xiao Wuji felt the statue. Tang Ye let Ye Fusion leave his position. Dongwa Zongwa Kinchi, he said to Ye Fusion that if he missed the opportunity, there would be no more. Let Ye Fusion take the opportunity to enter Donghazong as a reward. Everyone struggles. Seeing Ye Fusion at this time, it was hard for everyone to calm down. The same thing happened to Liu Shenyu. Mei Yan looked at the handsome figure. He was angry that day, and his drums were 16 and broken. After that, he took an 8-inch image according to the wall, directly controlled the flame statue, and burned the arm of Li Doin, the Cloud Sword sect. Arrogant, but when everyone expected him to go to the Jingshan stone wall, he stopped. Many people thought he was not confident, but at this moment, no one knows his thoughts. He looked at the rest of his life, Wajayu and Ye Wuchen again. In the name of Kang Ye, these 4 people will become famous in the ancient world, and even their names will appear in the power of the Eastern Wasteland. Perhaps, Ye Wuchen has never underestimated the top evildoers in the Eastern Wasteland, but he is sure that Ye Fusion and the rest of his life have enough talent to sweep the Eastern Wasteland Tianzhou. No one can. And everything that happened to Ye Fusion seemed to justify this. What achievements will they have in this Kang Ye country? Liu Shenyu looked at the group and thought. Which GUBU also looked at Ye Fusion and others. He was a little regretful in his heart. Ye Fusion is better than his imagination. If he had known earlier, he would have dealt with Ye Fusion in other ways. That is, at least not worse than Liu Shenyu. It's time to return to the old world. Ye Fusion said suddenly. People's eyes were on him. Return. He didn't choose Zongman. For the rest of their lives, Ye Wuchen and the others understood Ye Fusion's intentions. Are you going back to Kang Ye? Liu Shenyu approached and asked. Ye Fusion laughed. The end of the year is approaching, of course I must return to accompany the elders. It's better to go to my country, Liu. I will send the Strong directly to escort you back. Liu Feiyang stepped forward and said, he didn't say to let Ye Fusion join their Liu country, because Ye Fusion said that he would return to Kang Ye. This implies he without preparing a sectarian gate. If he is quick to succeed, he must choose Ye Fu, but it's not good. No power is not allowed. Ye Fusion smiled at Liu Shenyu and said, of course, if you want to recruit horses, it is the family. Liu Shenyu looked speechless, glanced at Ye Wuchen next to him, and saw that Ye Wuchen was also black. I have no opinion. Liu Feiyang looked at Ye Fusion with a smile. The 2 men looked at each other, showing light. Liu Shenyu was completely speechless. You have no opinion. Did you ask him? No dust. Have you decided whether we should start with Liu Guo? Ye Fusion smiled at Ye Wuchen. Liu Shenyu glared at him. This man was on purpose. Ye Wuchen, since you want to return to Kang Ye, even if you don't leave Liu Guo, my Liu Guo people want to go to Kang Ye to see. This is not human kindness. Liu Feiyang said again, and his words made many people show different colors. This sentence seems to suggest something. Okay, starting with Liu. Ye Wuchen nodded. After the Eastern famine was shaken in the name of Kang Ye, Ye Fusion would return to the Kang Ye kingdom. How could Ye Wuchen not know what Ye Fusion meant? He wanted to solve the potential threat of the Kang Ye kingdom once and for all. In the future, no one would dare to move Kang Ye. However, before the sectarian gate, they were not really safe on the road. From this point of view, starting from Liu Guo and being escorted by Liu Geqiang to Kang Ye, whether it was someone in the old world who wanted to move them out of Luo Tianzi, no one wanted to ambush them anymore. Moreover, even if they owed Liu Guo a favor, they did not choose Liu Guo in the end, and it was good to have one more friend. From the attitude of Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu, they were naturally happy to join Liu Guo, and they would not join Liu Guo as friends. Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu won't mind. Ye Fusion smiled when he heard Ye Wuchen's words and looked at Liu Shenyu. Princess, you promised my house will be clean. Liu Shenyu was silent. The word, promise, is a bit ambiguous, and it seems that he can understand it on the other hand. Of course, he understood that Ye Wuchen did not think about it, but only promised to depart from Liu Guo. A glimpse of the leaves are dust-free, and Liu Yanyu's sunken face is a bit bashful. The rest of his life looked at Ye Fusion with admiration, very much. At first, he and King Xuan seemed to be the same, right? In that case, it's not too late, let's go immediately. Liu Feiyang said with a smile. Ye Fusion nodded, and the black wind carving flapped its wings. Lately, it is very cold in the ancient world, a little reluctant. What's the girl's plan? Ye Fusion asked Lu Langxiu while looking at him. I live in the ancient world. Lu Langxiu said. Her mother only let her try with Ye Fusion in the ancient world, and did not allow herself to go home with him. Now that Ye Fusion's beloved woman is there, so she naturally won't follow go. Okay, see you later. Ye Fusion nodded, and the party departed. In the void, Ye Fusion looked at Ye Dungeon and Ye Lingxi. How's Kangye country now? Ye Lingxi gave Ye Fusion a white look. This man still knows them. Of course, they didn't mean to blame Ye Fusion, this person had such a character. And everything that happened before deeply touched their hearts, and they also realized that there might be some changes in the Kangye country. At that time, Luo Junlin returned to the Nandu kingdom, and the powerful king of the king's temple came down directly to let him go to the Hanging King temple. Today, in front of the Jingshan stone wall, the ancient world is famous by the name of Kangye. When Ye Fusion returns to Kangye, what will the Kangye kingdom bring? Both Ye Lingxi and Ye Dungeon had some hope. Everything was fine when we came, but Nandao Guo seems to really intend to go to war. Of course, I am not afraid of the Kangye kingdom, Ye Dungeon said. Okay. Ye Fusion nodded. After returning this time, the position of the Kangye kingdom in the land of 100 countries will be very stable, and no one will dare to make a move. Liu Guo has an independent exit in the ancient world, and is located in an area outside the city that is deserted. After exiting the exit, Ye Fusion and them immediately appeared in King Liu's city. Many powerful figures guarded him. King Liu's chamber directly controlled it, and it was near King Liu's palace. Each of the top forces in the eastern wasteland occupied their own channel. After the party came out, they went straight to the royal palace and saw the magnificent palace in front of them. Ye Fusion smiled and said, it's definitely not a loss to be a horse in Liu country. Ye Wuchen and Liu Shenyu were already used to it. Are you sorry? Hua Jieyu smiled beside Ye Fusion. What do you regret? Ye Fusion blinked. I regret not marrying a princess. Hua Jieyu looked at him with a smile. Why, there is only one person in my heart. Ye Fusion said sincerely. Hua Jieyu smiled in satisfaction. Liu Shenyu glanced at Ye Fusion with a smile. This man is very arrogant, but there are still busters. Beauty was around me before, and witches were around, now. What did you see me doing? I have no interest in being a horse. Ye Fusion looked at Liu Shenyu. What kind of appearance? Never seen a good-looking man. Well, I know you prefer to wait for the maids, after all, they will serve you, like rubbing your shoulders. Liu Shenyu looked at Ye Fusion. Ye Fusion was dumbfounded and looked at Hua Jieyu and smiled. See you, are they okay with the teacher and the teacher? Some of them miss them. Hua Jieyu looked at him with a smile and didn't speak. The weather is good today. Ye Fusion looked up at the sky. The people around smiled, never saw the shameless. Soon, a party came outside the palace, and Ye Fusion stopped and said, let's wait here. Liu Feiyang said, do you want to meet our father in the palace? There will be opportunities in the future, and it's important to hurry. Ye Fusion shook his head with a smile. If he saw King Liu Guo, the other party invited him. Should he promise or refuse? I see, you just wait here, you are here, drowning fish. Liu Feiyang said, and entered the palace. After a while, I saw a line of figures appear, and the head is a very powerful prince person with majesty. This is my uncle Wang, Liu Feiyang introduced next. I saw Wang Ye. Ye Fusion begged to meet. No need to be polite. The newcomer waved his hand, looked at Ye Fusion and the others, and said, of course, they are all dragons and phoenixes. I want to see what the Kangye kingdom is like. Unfortunately, I have something to do with me. Don't move forward, you can come to Liu Guo often from now on. He did not invite, it seems what Liu Feiyang said to him. Of course. Ye Fusion nodded. This time, let Feiyang and Shenyu go with you to demoralize the Kangye kingdom. The prince joked. Besides Liu Feiyang and Liu Shenyu, there were several people behind him. The figure of the prince will escort Ye Fusion to return to the Kangye kingdom. In the void, the clouds rolled in, and then a monster appeared above the sky and dived. This monster was huge, like a fish and a penguin. With the wings spread, if the sky clouds descend, it is actually a big bang demon. I'm tired of running around, the master said to the monster. No problem, Zunpeng muttered, then landed in a large open space beside Ye Fusion and the others. Prince. Ye Fusion and the others focused their gaze. Let's go, Liu Feyang said. Ye Fusion nodded, and then everyone stepped on Kunpeng's back. The wind howled, Zunpeng spread his wings, went straight to the clouds, and directly entered the clouds, and disappeared in an instant.